cannot stand the man. She was extremely controlling. What was going on in his mind? I do think they were destined to break up. That is such a deep-rooted lie. She bullied Rory. Him and Lorelai weren't right. Her outfits slayed every single day, so that really did deduct points. Him and Rory should have been endgame. He was by far the best character. She deserved more. Just iconic. Just loved her. He is the most annoying character on the show. Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sofa Talk with Sophia Izzy. I'm so sorry I haven't done one of these in so long, but I'm back now, and for today's video I'm going to be ranking the Gilmore Girls characters from worst to best. I feel like the way that I've ranked the characters may be slightly controversial, but we shall see. And as always, while you watch the video, let me know in the comments your opinions of how I've ranked the characters. I really want to know what you think, if you agree with me, if you don't. So anyway, grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's chat. I haven't included every single character that was in Gilmore Girls because I feel like we could be here for a very long time if I do that. So for today, I've just included 24 of the characters. I will go into more detail for some characters than others as to why I've put them in that ranking. Let's start with the worst character in my opinion, which is being ranked at number 24. Drum roll please. It is Taylor Dosey. I cannot stand the man. I do not like him. Every time he's on my screen, he's jarring. I feel like skipping because he's just so annoying. I wrote down here, irritating and nosy. I hate small town busybodies. Always up in your business. Always, you know, wanting to know everything about everybody. I don't like it. It's just really annoying. He is the most annoying character on the show. I don't think he deserved as much screen time as he did get. And I also wrote he was dictative, controlling, and literally a small town bully. He just basically thought that he ran the town, and he almost made everybody sort of sing to his tune. You have to do as he says. He owns a lot of the property in the town, meaning he thinks he has power. And I feel like he's one of those people who lives in a small town that makes the whole town their whole life, and he felt like he was the king of the town. Generally just used to sit there and roll my eyes when I was watching the show when he was there. That is why I've ranked him as the worst character on Gilmore Girls, number 24. Okay, I feel like this next one is going to be quite controversial, as I said in the beginning. Number 23 was Jess Mariano. Now let me explain why, because some people will probably be sat there right now being like, no, I love Jess. The main one, which I would say is the worst one, is he literally forced himself on Rory at a party. That just makes you a huge douchebag. I don't care if people will turn around and be like, oh, but he had character progression. Only in the reboot was he a bit better. He still wasn't a nice character for all of the seasons of Gilmore Girls. Maybe he became a bit more mature towards the end, but it's unforgivable to force yourself on somebody when she was saying no. Furthermore, he crashed Rory's car. He definitely did that low-key because he knew that Dean had made it for her. Unforgivable as well. If somebody crashed my car and was also not a nice person to me, I wouldn't be able to stand them. He was rude to Lorelai all the time for no reason. There was no need to be that rude to everybody. He was rude to Luke, and he wouldn't compromise for Rory or do anything for her. So obviously she would invite him to like family events, to parties, and he was just like, no. You either meet up with me after and we do stuff together alone, or we don't meet up. That's not a relationship. He was toxic. He was a toxic king. I don't care that anybody says, oh, but he did do good things. Like he encouraged Rory to go back to Yale. No, he didn't. He just said, why did you drop out of Yale? I am just not for him. I don't like him. I don't think they even went well together. It's very controversial me saying this because I have seen a lot of people saying that Rory and Jess were their favorite couple. All of her boyfriends did have flaws, don't get me wrong, but I really could not stand him. So that is why he is ranked really low down. So before I go on an hour-long rant about him, we're going to move on to character 22. So I've ranked Mrs. Kim as the third worst character on Gilmore Girls, and the main reasons being she was extremely controlling and she made Lane's life majoritively miserable and didn't care how it actually affected her. Poor Lane had to literally hide her own personality from her mum. What does that even say? Mrs. Kim really did make Lane's teenagehood extremely unenjoyable, and I do just think that is unforgivable because mum issues will last forever. Let's just say that. Lane is gonna have mum issues forever. I didn't like Mrs. Kim. I did start to like her a bit more towards the end. I would say she was one of the characters that had the most character progression, but for the majority of the show, she was not a good mum, and that is why she is number 22. Moving on to number 21. I have ranked Kirk as number 21 on my ranking list. I just found him really annoying. That is what I've written down on my notes. He had the most annoying voice, he was always there, and he just had too much screen time. Like if I had a real life Kirk in my life, they would have driven me mad by now. He is so annoying. I do know that his character is meant to be annoying. Every time he would say something, I'd just be like, ugh, just shut up. Like I just found him so annoying. There isn't much really to say about him apart from he was just there all the time, and I think that's what's annoying for me. Anyway, next up, number 20 is Jackson. The main reason that I've ranked Jackson very low down is because we all know what I'm gonna say. He lied to Suki about getting a vasectomy, which is the biggest red flag. How can you lie about having a full-on vasectomy? Did he not ever expect Suki to get pregnant again? The logic isn't logicking what was going on in his mind. I put, he didn't care what she wanted, and I said he wasn't too bad of a character, but the vasectomy, I can't speak. But the vasectomy thing really made his character unlikable, because how do you even get over something like that? Where would the trust be in that marriage after that? How do you even get over a lie that big? That is the kind of lie that is equivalent to cheating. That is such a deep rooted lie. Suki is a better woman than me. I would have divorced that man there and then. And I feel like he was just also kind of controlling. Didn't get the best vibes from him. Number 19 on the ranking was Christopher. He was not a good father. He was not reliable. He was not there for Rory. And I just put, he was a bit of a douche, to be honest. He just didn't do enough. He was a bare minimum guy. Bare minimum guys deserve to be low on the ranking, because what did he really do? Yes, he loved Lorelai, but that didn't really mean anything. It didn't really matter. It didn't really make a difference. Do you know what I mean? He would come and go. He was flaky, and that's all I really have to say about him. He was just a sort of there character, if that makes sense. He was there, but he wasn't bringing anything to the table. I don't really know why Emily Gilmore loved Christopher so much. He wasn't successful. He wasn't doing anything amazing. So what was so special about him? Why did she prefer Christopher to Luke? It doesn't make any sense. At least Luke was a self-made guy. He was an entrepreneur. He had his own business. I think that's more commendable than Christopher. Number 18 is April and her mum. I just don't think they needed to be separate, because the points I make sort of intertwine with each other. I don't think it was April's fault, but I do think she was a really annoying character. Her personality was just irritating. The producers could have made her a bit more likable, in my opinion. Hated the mum. Absolutely hated the mum. The mum was so unnecessarily rude to Luke. She was the one who didn't even tell Luke about April, and then basically hated Luke having a relationship with April. Made no sense. The worst part of it all was she literally introduced her to him, and then a short while later was like, we're moving. Imagine how soul-crushing that is, to find out you have a daughter and then very soon after they're taken away from you. The mum had unnecessary beef with Lorelai. I don't understand why she hated April being around Lorelai. It wasn't like Luke was introducing somebody to April that was gonna come and go. You know, Lorelai lived in the town and she was obviously a likable character. I don't understand why April's mum had such a problem with her being around. And obviously she held that party for April and the mum just found fault in everything. They literally ended up going to court about it. What was it about? Was it about custody? I think it was. Yeah, the mum literally didn't want Luke to have any custody of April, which again is so unnecessary. She was like, we've been fine up until this point. Yeah, because you didn't tell him that he had a daughter, otherwise he would have been around for her from day dot. She didn't make any sense. There was no logic behind her opinions and thoughts. Maybe she deserves to be ranked lower down, but that is just the ranking that I have thought about for a while, and I think they sort of should sit there because they weren't the worst characters, and also they didn't have enough screen time. They weren't in all the seasons. So I feel like the characters that were are more likely to be unlikable because they've been around all that time and I still don't like them. So that is why some of the other characters are ranked lower than April's mum. Number 17, I don't really have much to say about him because he wasn't in the show for very long, but I've put Tristan as number 17 because he was a douchebag and wasn't very nice to Rory. I wrote, I don't care if he liked her, it still wasn't the vibe. He didn't treat her very well, but I could see that he was going through his own problems. He didn't have a very nice dad. He had to move away, and I think sometimes behind characters that are treating others badly is somebody that's going through their own difficulties, so we will give him some slack. He wasn't the worst, but he wasn't the best, so he's kind of mid-level. At number 16 is Emily Gilmore. I have a love-hate relationship with Emily Gilmore because on one hand she's manipulative, she's toxic, she is the toxic queen in the show. She was rude, she was judgmental, and then I wrote she wasn't the worst character, but she was just so schemy. She didn't like Luke, but she had no real reasons to not like Luke. I don't really like characters that don't like people because they're not super rich, and I feel like she was prioritizing money for a potential suitor for Lorelai rather than how they actually treated her, because Luke treated her like gold and he was never good enough for Emily, so it didn't really make sense. She didn't treat Lorelai very well, definitely gave Lorelai mummy issues. She just was not nice. Like, her intentions a lot of the time were malicious, and that makes you a not very likable character if you ask me. She had some saving graces. I would say she was a good grandma to Rory. They provided for her. Obviously, her and Richard paid for Yale and Chilton, so they came through on that front. I could see deep down that she wanted to have a good relationship with Lorelai. That was implied by inviting her for dinner every week, forcing her to come to dinner every week, because we all know as viewers that she just wanted to see her daughter, but she didn't handle a lot of situations in the best way. I think she could have been a better mum emotionally. Number 15 is Zach. Might be controversial. I wrote, I didn't hate him because he literally stepped up when Lane told him she was pregnant, married her, and didn't necessarily treat her that badly. He was just mediocre, and he handled Mrs. Kim very well. I mean, what more can I say? Found out that she was pregnant after one time of intimacy. I would say he stepped up. A lot of people would have potentially run away when they found that out. You know, they were young. His in-law was Mrs. Kim. He didn't handle some things well, but they were young, they were bound to have arguments, they stayed together, they pulled through, and I think he was a good substitute for Dave. I think if Dave was still around, we all would have wanted her to be with him, but the thing is, he wasn't. He did leave the show. We couldn't force them to be together, but we do all know that Lane's storyline could have ended up a lot better. I really think that the producers should have given her, I mean, we're not even on the Lane subject yet, but I just think they didn't need to make her settle down. They could have made her actually become a rock star and actually achieve her dreams. Because that didn't happen, I think Zach was an okay husband. He didn't do anything as bad as Jackson, for example. Number 14 is Patty. We love Patty. I have written not too much to say about her. She was just a likable character, really. She looked out for Rory and Lorelai, always provided the goss. I do like a character that has the gossip, you know. As girls, we do love the goss. So to have somebody like that in the town on your side is pretty good. You get to know the deets about everybody, so I like her. She was almost like a mum figure of the town, do you know what I mean? Just wholesome vibes. Not too much to say. She was kind of a middle level character, so because she didn't really have any main storylines, there isn't really anything to make her unlikable. I'm going to have a short interval to have a homemade cookie. Look at these. Oh my god. In the meantime, let me know what your opinions are of my ranking so far. Do you agree with me? I want to know what you think. And also let me know your opinions of the characters too. We're moving on to number 13. I have ranked Paris at number 13, and I have written, she was okay. She had good character development. She wasn't nice at the start, but I felt sorry for her because she clearly didn't have a loving family, and you can tell she does really value Rory, but she had bad traits too. That's why she's kind of a mid character, you know. She brought like the comedic element. I would say it was funny to watch how like bossy and dramatic she was, but she bullied Rory. She wasn't a very good friend a lot of the time. I do think that Paris felt in competition with Rory and a bit threatened sometimes. I think their friendship was a bit of an up and down difficult one. Her and her boyfriend used to make me laugh. What was he called? Like Doyle or something. They were funny. I didn't hate her that much. At number 12, I've put Babette. Bloody love the woman. I've written, I liked her. She looked out for Rory and Lorelai. She was always there for them and was friendly. She was funny too. She's like your neighborhood nan. Do you know what I mean? She's just cozy vibes. Her and her husband, super sweet. There's no reason you wouldn't like Babette. I just love how she calls everyone sugar. Oh, hey, sugar. I can't do it. I can't do her really low voice. Hey, sugar. Okay, it's not working. So yeah, I liked Babette. At number 11, we have got Michelle. Just wrote, funny guy, absolute mood, very relatable, but he definitely had a heart of gold secretly. I loved him. He was loyal to Lorelai. Him, Lorelai, and Suki made a cute little trio. I really didn't like how it went in the reboot when he was obviously going to leave the Dragonfly Inn. I wish that Lorelai had obviously just opened the spa and stuff so that he could have stayed. I didn't like how they all just sort of split off. He was kind of rude, but like it was in a way where you still don't hate him. Do you know what I mean? Number 10 is Dave. Is it Wachowski? Anyway, it's Dave. I've put him as number 10, and I put, what a guy. He really did his best to try and win over Mrs. Kim. He literally played for her family at parties, and we all wish that him and Lane had ended up together. Need I say more? He was missed. He was missed when he left. But at least we can all take comfort in the fact that in real life, he did actually end up with Leighton Meester, who is the absolute icon that played Blair Waldorf on Gossip Girl. What a couple. Even though he did leave Gilmore Girls, he still ended up with a queen. Do you like my teddy, by the way? He's called Grape because I feel like this bit just looks like a grape. He is actually meant to be a mushroom though, but I love him so much. At number 9, I've put Max Medina. Even though he wasn't in the show very much, I did say there isn't much to say about him, but he was a nice, sweet, unproblematic character. I did feel sorry for him, but ultimately him and Lorelai weren't right. They weren't right, but I did like him. When he sent her all the flowers, what a guy. He was a sweet teacher. He looked out for Rory. He was smart. He was an academic weapon. It was a shame to see him go. And that is why I've ranked him relatively high, because there's nothing negative to say about him. Now we're getting into controversial territory. We are down to the last 8 characters. Number 8 is Lorelai, and I'll tell you why. I just wrote, she was somewhat annoying at times, a bit jarring, but overall not a bad character. She was absolutely stunning. Her outfits slayed every single day. Loved her fashion sense. Just didn't always like her the most. She was a good mum. You know when you just aren't really gravitated towards a character super well? Like, I actually had no problem with her. I don't really have much to say about Lorelai. It's kind of a random one. Even though she was the main character, I still don't feel like there was much to say. She wasn't super unlikable, but I didn't love her, so she was just mid. At number 7, we've got Rory Gilmore. I didn't hate Rory. She did have a few bad traits though. She literally fat shamed people. I think Lorelai did that too. And she sometimes wasn't the nicest character, but once again, she wasn't the worst. I think her character progression was literally like a roller coaster. Like, she was having like some good moments, sometimes she wasn't. But I think that was obviously ultimately part of her experience growing up. She was a young character. You're gonna go through different phases in your life. When you're growing up, you're gonna be more unlikable in some phases of your life. I feel like all teenagers are. I thought Rory was a sweet character who just was dealing with normal life issues, except when she stole a yacht. That was very random and unnecessary. I still don't understand why that was in the show. It just was not needed. Also, I really didn't like how she couldn't understand or see her own privilege. She was from money, from her grandparents obviously, and she was always acting like, poor me, I have nothing, I have no money, like you literally do. I didn't like that. Moving on to number 6, we have got Richard Gilmore. I've said I didn't hate Richard. He did do some bad things, but I thought he was a really sweet granddad to Rory, and he would have done anything for her, and I stand by that. Also, I do feel like sometimes he was led astray by Emily's scheming. I don't think he would have done all of that alone. He did have bad traits, he did, granted, but could he have been a better granddad? I don't think so. I liked him as a granddad. I do think he had flaws regarding being a father, but we all know that when a father has a grandchild, they're a lot nicer to the grandchild than they are to their own child. I was really sad when he wasn't in the reboot, because obviously his actor had passed away, and I was just sobbing the whole way through because it wasn't the same without him, and that just really highlighted for me how much I did like his character because I missed it so much. So at number 5, we have actually got Dean. I've put Dean at number 5 because I've written here, he made Rory a whole car. He did the most. And I said, he was a very good boyfriend. He did have flaws, but he did the most for Rory, which is what a good boyfriend should do. Not the bare minimum like Jess. He did do the most. He came with her to her, what was it called? Prom? Debutante ball, I think. He came with her to things. He was really, really polite to everybody. He was on good terms with Lorelai. Everybody liked him. He was a likable guy up until the affair. We don't talk about the affair because that was just, we don't like the affair. No cheating, please. So that really did deduct points. But overall, back in the first few seasons I'm talking about here, he was very likable, I would say, and they made a cute couple. I do think they were destined to break up because they were sort of like childhood sweethearts in a way. Because people grow and evolve, those kind of relationships don't ever really tend to last. But I don't really think he had any terrible flaws. I think he always did what he had to do for his partner at the time. You could really tell he did really love Rory, which is why he cheats on Lindsay, which is no excuse. Just either break up with the person you're with or don't do that. I just don't agree with it. It just really highlighted that Rory was like his true love, if that makes sense. Why did he even marry Lindsay then? Do you know what I mean? At number 4, we've got Lane, the queen. And I just put, Lane was unproblematic. I felt bad for her and was a shame her life wasn't very good. She deserved more. She was a good friend to Rory. I feel like a lot of the time Rory kind of neglected Lane. And I do also believe that justice is needed for Lane. Her storyline was butchered. We all know it wasn't very good. I just feel bad for her. She deserved more. She was actually very tolerable of her mum. I feel like I wouldn't have been if my mum was like that. Like, she didn't really rebel. She accepted all the punishments, like being locked in her room and stuff. Anyway, we're getting into the top 3 now. I think you can already figure out who they are. Number 3, Logan. And I've written, I liked Logan apart from the whole potential cheating thing. We can't really confirm or deny if he did cheat on Rory, so let's just say he didn't. because they were broken up. Him and Rory should have been endgame. He really loved her and they really suited each other. He kept her on her toes. Perfect dynamic. They were literally yin and yang. Loved them. Was so upset when she turned him down in the final episode, only for them to have an affair when they're older. Makes no sense. They should have just been together. The logic, where was it? Where was it? And also, it's actually being confirmed recently, like in news articles and stuff, that her baby is definitely Logan's, so that's cute. At least they have a kid together. I did really like Logan. He literally gifted her a Birkin bag. He was a good boyfriend. They went well together. Down to the final two. Number 2 is Suki herself. I loved Suki. Such a wholesome, innocent character who was such a loving friend to Lorelai and a good parent figure to Rory. She was like the cool auntie vibes, do you know what I mean? Loved it. Always bringing around food. Such an amazing love language to have, like, you know, looking out for people, cooking for them. Just iconic. Just loved her. She was kind. She put up with all of the rubbish from Jackson. And I swear even when her and Lorelai had an argument, they just made up immediately. And then drum roll please. At number 1, we've got Luke himself. Love Luke. So much to say about Luke. I've written, he was by far the best character and was so sweet to Lorelai. He always looked out for Rory. He was patient. He waited so long for Lorelai. I think it was over 8 years. He was just the best character who had a colder exterior, but a heart of gold ultimately. Just loved Luke. I loved him. He was just so caring, but it wasn't in like a weird way, if that makes sense. Like, he was like a tough guy who also had that emotional side, which is really nice, and he was able to, like, you know, look out for everybody in the town. He was always helping others, even though he did it like begrudgingly. He still did it, you know. Everybody knew him, and I feel like his cafe was like the town's hub, do you know what I mean? Everybody went there, so he was definitely a prominent character. He was such a good stepdad to Rory. He literally went to her Chilton graduation and I swear he was like crying. He literally saw Rory as his own, and I loved that. Didn't he like build her that tent thing in the last episode when she was leaving? He was just so kind. You know, he took Jess in when he really didn't have to because he was hard work. He was the best. He was number 1 for me. He put up with so much and he just got the Gilmore Girls. When you have somebody that loves you like Luke loves Lorelai, you gotta hold on to it because it's special. And on that note, that is my ranking of all of the Gilmore Girls characters. As I said at the start, there are other characters like Luke's sister, etc. But I think if I was to go into more characters, I might need a part 2. So let me know if you would like me to do a part 2 for this video. As I said before, don't forget to let me know your opinions in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, then please don't forget to give it a like, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.